Rise up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Brought to you by Stetson Ranches out of Fromberg, Montana. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Wednesday. Hope the week is treating you all right. I don't want y'all to call me a hero, but you can call me a survivor. Am a survivor. COVID-free. Just took another test tonight. Came back negative. Pandemic survivor right up in here. No need to congratulate me. It's all just hard work, clean living, and good genetics or something like that, you know. Might just be lucky, I guess. I don't know. Either way, got the Rona, kicked the shit out of it. I won't say that ivermectin cured it, but I won't say it didn't. I don't know. Did take a little bit of horse dewormer, unlike Joe Rogan. That pussy. He went to a doctor and shit. Who needs that? When you got cow meds, you got horse meds, right there, easily at your disposal. Not recommending it. Saying it's an option. Might not be a good option, but it's an option nonetheless. All that being said, it wasn't that bad. I still don't see what the fuss is about. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. We're here to talk about some weird cattle stories, as you can see right here on the screen. Camera's backwards, mirrored. Anyhow, we're talking weird cattle stories today. And mostly because bitch-ass Aaron decided to ditch me off again for since post-politics. That's also not true. He is a bitch-ass, but not for this. He had some family stuff come up, so we delayed it. We'll try to do one here later this week. And but first and foremost, before we get into all this, gotta wish a happy birthday to my buddy, Mr. Boots O'Neill, 89 years old today. Talked to him on the phone. They were gathering cattle. They were doing a whole bunch of ranch work, and as Dale Frisbee says, light to moderate ranch, and he was probably doing some heavy ranching today. It sounded like they had quite a little bit of work to do, but freaking cool. 89 years old, still out there doing the damn thing. So hats off to you, Boots. Happy birthday, buddy, and we'll get him back on here on the show real soon. I don't know how real soon, but soon. Today I was also my first full day back to work after being. It's so weird. I've worked through so much worse than this whole deal. But you know, it's I mean, I guess it is what it is. Take proper precautions to keep people safe. We do have a few older folks that don't need them keeling over and dying on me, so stayed home. Got more sleep than I have in quite some time. It was just telling Derek Mott that it's wasn't a bad sickness. But it was too damn hot outside to do anything if you weren't getting paid for it. So I didn't Didn't get a whole lot of the honeydew list done either. I just kind of stayed out of it. And it was pushing 100 degrees all week last week, so I just didn't get much done. I got some podcasting done, got some reading done. Binged watched a show for the first time in a while. What was the name of that? The Defeated. That's a pretty good show, not gonna lie. I kind of enjoyed it. About post World War II Berlin, like the year after. Pretty good show, not gonna lie. But first day back to work day, we had this heifer that I've treated several times. Just a kind of a chronic-y little puke, leppy little Holstein heifer. Quite the ordeal. Every time I've pulled that heifer, she doesn't move fast, and she doesn't really try to get away. She just does not go out the gate. And so, of the 3 times she's been doctored, she's had a rope around her neck 3 different times, and then today made the 4th. And really, wasn't even trying to treat her. I was just trying to kick her out into our chronic pen. And I hate those real slow moving, just like they just kind of like do a real slow head fake, and she probably weighed 5,300, my baby. I mean, she was pretty shrunk up, pretty ganted, sick, and they always seem to know when to duck their head when you rope them too. So, or they'll drag their feet and can't get them healed very well. But we got her out. Did not want to travel down the alley, so tried to lead her with the rope. She laid down, so we ended up dragging her most of the way. And then she proceeded to go ahead and die on me, which did I speed up the process? Probably a little bit, but not by much, I bet. She was going to die regardless. And I'll tell you how I know. We cut her open. And this goofy bitch's right lung started cutting into the ribs, and immediately just got the old yellow abscess, just real runny pus, like watery, chunky, and a whole bunch of it. I mean, like a lot of it started pouring out. And so finished cutting the ribs, started breaking them back, and then we ended up having to cut the lung off the rib because it was seized up there. Well, what was left of that right lung was seized to the rib cage. And well, it turns out the part that wasn't seized to the rib cage, the rest of it was basically just one great big abscess, because there was just not much of that lung left. It was one of the weirder ones I've come across. I've cut open some pretty gnarly. I've also seen some really weird ones, kind of alien looking shit. If anybody's dealt with that curly calf syndrome, which that's a pretty neat deal. Neat. Using that term a little loosely. But it's a what would you call it? It's one of them kind of looked like it was built like a spider, like it had four legs instead of 8, as most calves tend to do. But the head, instead of being like at the shoulders, on the neck coming out of the shoulders, like there wasn't much of a neck, and the head was like perched right in the middle of the spine, and his legs just kind of dangled around, and then the skin grew together, but the guts like grew on the outside of the hide, and it was creepy looking little bastard. Then there was another one kind of along the same lines. It didn't have quite the spider look to it, but it was just real deformed. Guts grew on the outside of the hide, and if you guys have been around any of that stuff, it's what I'm talking about. They're weird looking, and I've dealt with some pretty nasty ulcers when I was working for Cactus at that cow calf deal and confined cow calf thing. We were feeding a really highly concentrated ration there for a short period of time. We got away from that because, well, what it was a 3-ingredient ration. We'd feed chopped corn stalks, and then we'd top dress it with the ration, which was flake corn, DDG, dried distiller grain, and a protein mineral supplement, in pelleted form, and it was very, very small amount of that pellet, so you had to mix it good. He didn't do that. It caused some real serious digestive issues. We did lose a bull, and then we ended up pumping several gallons worth of vinegar down another one. Got him saved, and can't remember if he went back to breeding or not. Probably not. I don't recall exactly how that one ended up. I know he lived, though. That one was not my fault. I was not feeding that day, so there's kind of a stupid bitch that was feeding that day, and he forgot to mix her load, if you will. And yeah, so we had a bunch of bulls that ate nothing but straight protein and mineral supplement, and that was another kind of weird one, but not weird on the level of the stories we're going to talk about today. And I'm sure you guys have heard about it if you're in the cattle business, cowboy or whatnot, or if you're into aliens and UFOs and shit, which I'm not particularly into that. You might be into the Bigfoot. Not particularly into that either. My father-in-law is, so I hear a lot about it. The thing for me is there is so much weird shit that goes on in the world that we can find out about and find proof of very readily. So I don't waste too much of my time with the UFOs and Bigfoots, Cabras, Yeti. And then there's some shit that just can't really be explained. And there sounds like maybe there's some good explanations from people you call a skeptic, but they don't really hold a whole lot of weight, or they don't quite do a good job of explaining it. So this first one I'm going to talk about was out in Prineville, Oregon. Brooke County Sheriff's Office said Saturday, this was back in March, I believe, March 6th is when this wrote, KTVZ TV out of Oregon. The Crook County Sheriff's Office said Saturday it's investigating several suspicious cattle deaths and possible mutilations in rural eastern and southern parts of the county over the past week. Agency said it also plans extra patrols and urged ranch vigilant. The very rural ranch land as well as public BLM land under Sheriff James Savage said in a brief news release that caused the cattle deaths not natural and under investigation. Sergeant Mitch Madden told Channel News 21 there have been at least 3, possibly 4 such cases, and that certain body parts were under sheriff added. The sheriff's office would like to encourage our stock growers to be vigilant, checking on their animals and report any suspicious activity to us. So then we'll move along to this article here, which is from last month. So August 24th. And so that's not quite a month ago. This is from Capital Press. Oregon authorities are investigating the mysterious death and mutilation of 2 bulls whose carcasses found this summer, one in Harney County, the other in nearby Wheeler County. Most recent case, a black Angus bull out of the Thomas Angus Ranch purebred line and worth about $45 was found dead and mutilated August 14th at Greenbar Ranch in Wheeler County. So right at a month ago, it was found. And Thomas Angus Ranch is a pretty big purebred outfit. They're usually top 10 or 15. Might be top 5 of the Angus, top 100 Angus breeders, whatever. I know Cactus was going to do some work with them on that cow calf operation. I don't know if anything ever come of it after I was fired, so I don't know, but they're pretty well known outfit. But this was found at Greenbar Ranch in Wheeler County. But it was one of the Thomas Angus purebred bulls. And Bodie Brown, whose brother Tanner owned the bull, and a friend were the first to find the carcass near a watering hole. Its nose, tongue, left cheek, ear, eye, reproductive organs, and parts of its tail were removed with clean cuts. The cause of the death is unknown. So, nose, the tongue, left cheek, eye, ear, penis, and the testicle, the old cock and balls, and part of the tail were removed with clean cuts. Cause of death is unknown. Bull, when found, had likely been dead a few days and was already decomposing. 24-hour window which the necropsy could have been performed on the body had passed. So this one kind of sucks. I'm not saying that the folks don't have a case here. It just sucks that it was more than 24 hours after, because especially in August on the high desert, it gets a little warm. It decomposes pretty quick. Deputy Jeremiah Holmes of the Wheeler County Sheriff's Office is on the case. Kind of a strange thing. Tanner Brown, who owned the bull and runs about 300 pair on 9,000 acres. It's unfortunate, but I think there are other people in the same spot I'm in. Right, he wasn't alone. The 5th case of cattle mutilation in Wheeler County in the past 20 months. Nearby Harney County has had 5 cases in the past 4 years. Two of which happened this year in May and July. According to FBI records, it's not just an Oregon problem. Since the 70s, thousands of killings of cattle have happened across the U.S. Cases, officials say, usually look eerily similar. Cow or bull is found dead in a remote area with no indication of how a suspect might have gained access to the property. Typically, no footprints, tire tracks, or fingerprints are found. There's little to no spilled blood and no puncture wounds, bullets, or strangulation. Strangle me a bull. But what they mean there is they got choked out by a rope. In other words, a mystery. Holmes, the deputy on Brown's case, is also the primary investigator. 4 other recent mutilation cases. That all 5 cases looked about the same. Deputy, however, declined to comment on further details about the August case, saying he's tracing some specific clues and doesn't want a suspect to know. So we've actually got a suspect. As a hypothetical example, if suspects knew he recognized tire tracks, they might ditch their getaway car. Got a few leads I need to look into that I can't talk about yet, said Holmes. All 5 recent mutilation cases in Wheeler County are still open and under investigation, as are the most recent 5 cases in Harney County. And so Harney County, that's where Bend, I think that's where Ben's at. Burns, one of the two. Holmes advises fire farmers and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so basically it says be vigilant and watch for suspicious persons or vehicles where the livestock are. So we got what appears to be, could be, aliens killing cattle. Now, that's not me saying that. That's some speculation on part of numerous people over the years. Uh, first case, really, that I found of that kind of kicked all this off. Actually, back in my home state, Colorado, in the San Luis Valley, and over by Alamosa. So this was back in a diary of an old family friend. It says happened September 27th, 1967, and 50 years ago, 54 years ago now. It was a horse instead of a cow, but kind of put San Luis Valley on the world map. It says discussion still continues today. So there was a horse they called Lady. Later they called him Snippy, but we'll get to that. Her has become more famous in death than Man of War was in his prime, they said. So from a columnist for the Rocky Mountain News, which no longer exists, but was one of the two big newspapers there in Colorado, Denver Post and Rocky Mountain News. He also suggested the horse had tripped and fallen with his head in a band of cannibal ants. The only thing people can say for certain after the past 5 decades is that something killed Nellie Lewis's horse. Appaloosa horse, so good riddance. It was a creature of habit, she said. The horse in Appaloosa named Lady was a creature of habit, so caregiver Harry King became concerned when she didn't come to the fence behind the King home for her water and usual treat. Harry lived with his aged mom, Agnes, then 87, and cared for the horse belonging to his sister who lived in Alamosa. Went looking for the horse and found her laying on her side with her head stripped bare to the bone. Said that the precision cuts on the flank couldn't have come from a coyote or even a pack of them. Strong chemical smell akin to acetone lingered in the air. Nellie, who's his sister, called a friend and the ranch. Found theirs carved into the annals of history, embellished by many, featured in short films, folk legends, and books. Brought fame and fortune to the authors, but no answers about the horse's death. The carcass was poked, prodded, and renamed Snippy, name Nellie used for a horse then on. A bizarre event, one of many that had been plaguing the sparsely populated San Luis Valley, began 50 mystery. When Nellie and her husband, Burl Lewis, began walking around the grisly scene, the odor was still in the air. The bones appeared to have been exposed to the sun for years, though they had a pinkish cast. Although the carcass had lain exposed for several days, it was not bloated and the smell not that of decomposition. Predators, vultures, or buzzards had found it appealing, although the flesh at the base of the neck was still pliable. This is kind of where, that part's pretty weird in and of itself. But then it gets real weird. The horse's footprints ended about 100 feet from where the remains lay. No other prints were found. Lewis has found 15 burns that could be circular exhaust marks. 100 yards north of the carcass, they found a 3-foot bush and bushes within a 10-foot radius of the bush that also been flattened to within 10 inches of the ground. 6 indentations, 2 inches across and 6 inches deep, formed a circle 3 feet in diameter. On the bushes, Nellie found some gelatin-like green globs and a piece of metal covered in horsehair. After touching these, her hands began to burn and hurt until she could wash them. Only footprints around by then were of people Nellie knew and had been. Nellie reported the incident to then Sheriff Ben Phillips, who declared the horse had been struck or killed by lightning. None of that sounds at all like lightning. Maybe the burn marks off in the distance, but yeah, there's probably going to be a bigger fire Lightning, most likely, dang near 100% of the time. That's going to cause something bigger than a 3-foot circle in diameter, and yeah. So basically, this little sheriff said, "I don't know what the fuck it is. We'll call it lightning." Weather reports for the time period did not show any such activity. Wayne Martin, a U.S. Forest Service employee, arrived with a Geiger counter and began testing. The area around the burn marks was radioactive, and so were the green globs and the horsehair-wrapped metal. Residents and visitors also reported strange phenomena. One man said his car was followed by a top-shaped object. A college student said both his rear tires blew out as he approached an object as it sat in a field. 2 sheriff deputies were followed by an orange globe and threatened with their jobs if they wrote reports on it. Several days after the horse was found, police at nearby the Great Sand Dunes National Park found Dr. John Altshuler, an award-winning pathologist, trespassing on the monument after dark. When the police lectured him on about breaking the law, he begged to keep it secret, afraid his reason for being in the park would ruin his career if it came out. He was searching for UFOs. When the officers learned of Dr. Altshuler's area of expertise, when they learned that his area of expertise in the study of blood coagulation, they decided to let him off the hook if he would take a ride out to Harry King's ranch and view the remains of a horse to see if he, a medical expert, makes something out of all of it. So, people talk, and people always want to be a part of a story. So, skeptical part of me, and I'm kind of skeptical, but I do love entertaining a conspiracy theory. And like a lot of these ranchers, I've seen my fair share of dead cattle, dead horses. Not so much on the horses, quite as much, but for sure on the cattle. I've cut open probably thousands of cattle at this point, and I've seen just as many more that have died of natural causes, have been by predators, whatnot. And there was let me see if I can find a picture real quick, but there's several pictures of some of these cattle that end up like this, mutilated as they're calling them, that really just look like they had the ass end eaten out by a coyote and was starting to decompose. But then there's some others that no, not quite so much. There was one pic. Here we go. It's all right. So like that one right there, just right here. That it's hard to tell just because it's a picture, but that looks like a coyote just ate the ass end out of it, which they tend to do because it's soft tissue, relatively hairless. Like the ladies myself, and so it's easy for them to get at it, get some food in their belly, and then from there forward you get into the guts, which is all soft tissue, and then get up into the rumen, and then we had a bear that was prowling along the river here. I think it was like 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago, I guess. At the time we still had a rendering truck come pick up our deads, and well, they only came. I think they came Monday, Wednesday, Friday, drove out from Reno, so they didn't come every day like back home in the beef belt where there's a feedlot. Can't throw a rock without hitting at least 35 feedlot, where they got rendering service, several different ones that come and pick up your dad's. Used to they charge the rendering service for it, but nowadays they charge you, and that became the case. So we stopped having Reno rendering come out because they were charging us too much money. But while they were still coming out, sometimes those deads would sit overnight, and sometimes sit over the weekend, and they'd get a little ripe if they had to do that. But so Black Bear was it was a sow and a boar and 2 cubs. They would come up at night and they'd eat on these deads, and we got plenty of pictures of them on trail cam, and we end up having a tracker come out, and they shot the boar, and then they trapped the sow and the cubs and relocated them. But it's a big ass bear too. It was like 750-pound black bear, big dude. But what they're saying here on all these cases I've read about, they're saying it's like surgical type cuts, and it was anything but that when those bears get a hold of them. The coyotes too. I mean, you can see where they chewed on them, and then they get up and they'll especially those bears. They ate a lot of that feed, and they would just rip those bellies open. They'd start at the asshole, and then they'd just paw the shit out of it till they broke that rumen open, and they'd eat that feed that was still in the belly. And but it was pretty obvious there was a predator chewing on those critters. So we'll go back to this article here. So he found that the animal's lungs, heart, and thyroid were completely missing, removed with some of the cleanest cuts he had ever seen. The brain and abdominal organs were gone, he said, and there was no material in the spinal column. At the edges, the sliced skin was deep black in color. Even stranger to him was the lack of blood. Many years later, as an old man, he told a reporter, "I've done hundreds of autopsies. Can't cut into a body without getting some blood. There was no blood on the skin or on the ground, no blood anywhere. The outer edges of the skin were cut firm, almost if they had been cauterized by a modern-day laser. But there was no cauterizing laser technology like that in 1997. So that story blew up even back in the days before internet and social media. People like aliens. They like hearing about them. So, Associated Press, United Press International, London Times, Parish Match, periodical magazines, and publications devoted to strange things arrived to cover this. Guard was placed at the gate, pending investigation by the Aerial Phenomenon Research Association, ARPO. Government loves them some acronyms. News of possible UFO involvement eventually reached the Condon Committee, a group funded by the U.S. Air Force from 1968 at the Colorado. Fuck the University of Colorado. Go Rams. Their purpose was to study reports of UFOs. Blah, 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 blah. The mutilation was blamed on space aliens, but those who didn't believe the stories of flying saucers attributed the injuries to everything from secret government projects to the work of satanic cults, until Superior Court Judge Charles E. Bennett of Denver and his wife said they witnessed 3 reddish-orange rings in the sky that maintained a triangular formation, moved at high speed, and made a humming sound. And then there were small black jet planes people claimed to have seen buzzing in the area where Snippy died. And see. After that, there's not much else to that story other than they don't know what the hell happened. But that's kind of the first, I won't say documented case, but that's the first one that kind of really took off. I found a archived podcast, says, from Linda Moulton. She's got a website called earthfiles.com, and apparently did a podcast with one of the Montana sheriffs involved in cattle mutilation investigations, and he has like a tell-all podcast. So I'm gonna see if I. Looks like you got to pay for it. I don't know how bad I want to listen to that, but if it's not too expensive, a couple bucks here and there, I might go ahead and give it a listen. I don't know. We'll see. But there is cases like this all over Oregon, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, and so much so that the FBI actually did an investigation. I believe I want to say it was like 1979 or something like that. Well, there's also the Skinwalker Ranch, which is pretty well known. There's there it's one of those places that always gets brought up when it comes to UFOs, Area 51, Bob Lazar, and all of that. But the Skinwalker Ranch, this one I haven't done too much research into, but it's in northeastern Utah, and so rancher Terry Sherman lost several head of cattle to mutilation after buying the 512-acre property in 1996, which in Utah, that's not a very big property. Not sure exactly where it's northeastern. That'd be up Park City. So I guess for up there, it might be a pretty. I mean, it's still 512 acres, so it's take a little bit of walking to get around that. But he bought it in 1996. Mutilations coincided with several strange encounters. In one, Sherman saw a wolf-like creature 3 times the size of a normal wolf. It's a big fucking wolf. And it was impervious to rifle fire. Apparently, he shot it and hit it, but didn't big enough gun. In another, a researcher saw an odd humanoid creature with piercing yellow eyes spying on him from a tree. Awful squatchy. Awful squatchy. And other cases of hints on the property. But, like I said, I haven't done much research into that. I haven't done much research into any, especially like the UFO stuff, because it's just not really my thing. But there's been a bunch of these type of deals in Oregon here last year or so, and every one of them's the same. They'll say it's like surgical like cuts in animals. Any of the reproductive organs are removed, so like the whole asshole area is cut away. The penis, the testicles, usually some of the cheek, the eyeballs, brain, and a lot of the internal organs are gone, and there's no blood. And it looks like they've been cut with a scalpel or a laser or something, and there's no tracks, nothing. And there's the Oklahoma one I read about, and this one wasn't too long ago either. I think this was in 2020, maybe. That I was yeah. So Got mysterious, horrific cattle mutilations hit Oklahoma. And this is by Paul Seaburn from mysteriousuniverse.org. How respectable of a publication this is, I couldn't tell you. Not to sound flippant about a serious subject, but cattle and horse mutilations in the year 2020 are beginning to whack-a-mole. Cases pop up, investigators miss catching who or whatever did it. Another case pops up elsewhere, and the feudal whacking continues. That's just like when you try to take a chick home, doesn't happen. You're at the bar, you gotta go rub one out, but you got the whiskey dick, and that is just feudal whacking. Futile whacking continues. Latest locations for these horrific abuse here is in Oklahoma, where Rancher Cody Zimmerman went to check on newborn calves and instead found a horrific scene. Yesterday we were out checking cattle and found the two calves here. Both of them had their tongues cut out, genitals removed, anus cut. Both of them without any bullet wounds. I believe they were cut open while they were alive. Real bad deal. And a real bad deal and evil that got worse when he moved the corpses and found that their hearts and eyes had been cut out and their hooves cut off as plot and constitution. Court doesn't sound like the work of a trained butcher, a starving person in need of food, or even a space alien in need of lab sample. How would you know that it doesn't sound like a space alien? The rest of that I could buy. I'm not saying space aliens are real, but if they are, how would you know if that looks like their work or not? So, this is the worst article of the ones that I'll pull up today. But sadly, Comanche County Sheriff Kenny Stradley says this is not his first cattle mutilation rodeo. His department investigated a similar case in June 2020. Stradley didn't buy any paranormal explanations. He whoever does this is clearly a sick person, likely a member of an occult group experienced in mutilations for their services. Some other reason, because people who do this leave no evidence behind. It's almost impossible to catch them unless you catch them in the act. Sheriff gives a clue that could help catch them. Them is in parentheses. In the act. It says the attacks often happen before Halloween, the holiday beloved by costume partiers, revered by witches, and ruined by incidents like the latest in Oklahoma. Catching just one in the act could resolve the mystery and so-called cult hysteria. While it's easy to blame on forces, in-depth investigations at mutilation sites around the country by local police on up to the FBI have consistently turned up nothing. Ranchers have never been hesitant to blame wild animals and then exterminate them. Well, coyotes, for example. Few mutilated cow owners go that route. Hate the government for various reasons. Rarely use a secret government program conspiracy theory. They also rarely blame UFOs and extraterrestrials, ETs. Why would an ET cut up a cow when they could easily snatch up a human? Not interested in a human. I don't know. Maybe they're just not a gay alien, because usually the alien encounters usually involve an anal probe, and so maybe they're just gay. They're veterinary aliens. I don't know. Why is it so difficult to catch the mutilators in the act? Mostly because there's just so many heads of cattle in this country and so little surveillance in the faces. Could an increase in satellite surveillance of cattle ranches help? at least during Halloween season. Good luck getting Western ranchers to accept that offer. Yeah, that part's true. I don't know of any rancher that's just gonna willingly allow for increased satellite spread. The occult factor comes up so often because it's so easy to link the fears of the unknown and the hatred of different religions and ceremonies. Fact is, there have been very little evidence ever turned up of such sacrificial cults in the U.S. Think about it. Why would a cult set up shop in Oklahoma? You been to Oklahoma? It's a perfect place for a cult. But we just found out about the gay tiger cult beginning of the pandemic. Oklahoma is a perfect place for a cult. So is Oregon. There's been also another Netflix documentary on a cult in Oregon. I don't know if they were sacrificed. A lot of sex in that one. I think it was a lot more of the straight type of sex in Oregon one than the Joe Exotic cult, but sex cults nonetheless. So I don't know who wrote this article, but I don't like it. I'd like to hit. And if it's a woman, I might like to hit her too, just for being dumb. But I'd feel bad about it. Is easy access to cows enough compensation for having to live where one will obviously never be accepted? So if we rule out cults, aliens, government programs, and wild animals, what else is left as the incredibly elusive cause of cattle and horse mutilations worldwide? Perhaps the most sinister force of all are fellow humans who are a real bad deal and it's not a good article. And mostly because they're just mocking people that claim UFOs, even though even the government has admitted that there are UFOs. Yeah, I don't. All the stuff I've read on this, I haven't delved into it nearly as much as some of these other alien UFO people. Yeah. But the responses from the ranchers that are the victims of this are usually like, I don't know what the fuck happened, but that ain't a person that did that. And if they did, I don't know how. Never any tracks leading up to it. Never any blood. And the tongue and the eyes and the dick and the balls and the asshole are all cut out with surgical precision. No blood. And if you ever cut open a cow, got a lot of blood. A lot of blood. And so it's a weird deal. Is it aliens? I don't know. Is it Bigfoot? Probably not. I'm not saying that Bigfoot doesn't exist, but unless Bigfoot has some very advanced, holy shit, that's what it is. We've got scientist Bigfoots. Science-Squatch. Holy shit, we cracked the case right here. Science-Squatch 2 is doing all these cattle mutilations. There's been plenty of sightings of Bigfoot. There's just a video that came out a couple weeks ago, maybe, out of Idaho. Shitty video, by the way. The article I was reading trying to convince you that it was very clearly not a person in a costume. See so much detail in the muscles. I didn't see shit. It was like a 4-minute video, but the only thing they showed was this creature, or probably a dude in a costume, taking 2 steps, and then they just had that on loop, and then they slowed it way down, and it was grainy. I mean, it's not as grainy as like the old 70s Sasquatch videos, but it's like a cell phone camera from, say, 2008, 9, somewhere in there, like iPhone 1 video. That would be about what it would look like. And I'm not gonna say it looked fake, but it damn sure didn't look all that real. But I don't think we've ever considered that there's like an advanced society of Squatch. Maybe they have the same type of technology that we do. Maybe they stole it from some poor guy after they anal probed him. Maybe they stole his shit, anal probed him with his own stuff. Got his shit pushed in with his own like metal detector or something. They like reverse engineered it through, Sasquatch powers. Science Squatch. Yep, I'm convinced now. Science Squatch is what it is. I'm sorry, folks. That is 51 minutes of reading articles and a lot of speculation. I mean, it took me a while to realize it, but Science Squatch, that's what it is. So, what's my solution for that? Well, I don't have one. I mean, if a Sasquatch can just like, from what I've heard, take this with a grain of salt, maybe a shot of penicillin. Not sure if ivermectin will help with this one or not. So use that at your own caution. Or don't. Probably don't. Or do. I don't care. If you do, let me know. But I've heard stories where, well, and we'll just take like a grizzly bear, for example. Because that's something that we know exists. Or do we? It is all a simulation, so that could be fake too. But you can watch videos of a grizzly just like paw an elk right in the middle of the back, just snap its spine. And I would imagine Sasquatch being somewhere around the same size as a big grizzly, except we're talking primate here. Opposable thumbs and superhuman monkey strength. Ooh, now can you imagine if they have like super intelligence as well? Science Squatch. Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for that shit. And if we're to believe the Skinwalker Ranch, they are impervious to rifle fire. So, bazooka, RPG, Elon Musk's not flamethrower. Yeah, that'll just piss it off. You gotta go at least elephant gun. If not, like a Carl Gustav or some sort of rocket propelled grenade. If anybody's come across an F-15 and you bought a Science Squatch, for scientific reasons, wouldn't be the best thing to take him out with an F-15. But for humanity's sake, well, that's what I'd recommend. A man who will rent a pig cannot be trusted. Neither can a Science Squatch. So, we'll leave you on that. And if you happen to know any of those folks up in Oregon or New Mexico or whatever that had some of their cattle mutilated like this, just know Science Squatch is out there, and who the fuck knows what he's trying to do with any of this material that he's they're kind of maybe eating it. If it was just a regular Squatch, I would say they're probably just eating it, but we're talking Science Squatch. God only knows. And on that note, Move your ass. We're burning daylight.